So we're now going to cover the fourth and final part of this discussion, where I'm going to show you how we applied ChatGPT recently to solve a fun and interesting problem here in the Vanderbilt Computer Science department. And it's a really neat example, and if ChatGPT is working, I'll actually show you the artifacts and how everything was done. So this particular example will show the power of prompt engineering to solve an interesting problem using natural language programming. So my hypothesis here is that this is the future of the way we're going to be doing many, many things. And I do this all the time now, as I'm sure many of you do in the context of this class. So what were we trying to do? What are the steps of what we're trying to do? So about a month ago at this point, we had a faculty retreat for the computer science department. And so we brought all the faculty together. We haven't done this in a long time, so we had about 35 people come right before classes started and got together, and we wanted to brainstorm ways we could do a better job teaching our courses, brainstorm ways we could rise in the rankings of a department, ways we could improve the research that we're doing, getting better grad students, taking our existing grad students and making them more successful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when you run a meeting like this, you really want to make sure that you listen to your audience. You don't want to just come out and say, you're going to go talk about these topics, and we don't care if you like them or not, just deal with it. So you really want to solicit input. So what we did was we solicited each faculty member to send us a one-bullet sentence or phrase of what they wanted to have covered at the meeting. And so people sent something in. So how can we increase communication to undergrads and graduates? How can we have pathways to enable students to be able to complete 4 full years at Vanderbilt, graduate on time? What can we do to give people awards and recognitions? What happens if a faculty member gets sick or decides to quit in the middle of the semester, which actually just happened this year? How do we find a backup? And so on and so forth. So there's all kinds of things that people cared about. So we got this list, and I was talking to my colleague, and she said, let's sit down together and we'll group these things into maybe 6 or 7 categories manually. We can't do that. This is the brave new world of ChatGPT. So what we did is we took this list, we gave it to ChatGPT, and we said, please break this up into 6 or 7 groupings based on what you deem to be common topics, generate headings for each grouping, and then summarize why those things belong in that grouping. That's a great ChatGPT kind of thing. And lo and behold, it did it. So it came up with 7 different areas, or 6 different areas: academic and course programmatics, faculty and student development, recruitment, admissions, retention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it broke things up into a bunch of different categories. And what was also cool is it generated a summary of what was going on in that area. And then what we would do is we would go ahead, what we did then is we took that list, sent it out to the faculty, and we asked them to fill out a Google form that said what they wanted to talk about, what was most interesting to them. So for each of the 6 or 7 topic areas, we said, rank your interest from high to low, where 1 is most interested and 6 is least interested. Okay, so now we have a list of faculty names, and we have a list of what they care about in the order that they care about it. So I went back to my colleague, and she's like, all right, let's sit down together. It's going to take us a couple hours, and we're going to figure out how to map the faculty to the topic areas. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is the brave new world of large language models. Why would we do something as tedious and mind-numbing as that? So what we did, and this is what I'm going to show you in a second, is we used ChatGPT to map the faculty to the discussion topic groups. And now I'm going to switch over, and hopefully ChatGPT is working, and I'll show you kind of what we did. So this is a record of the ChatGPT session that I did to show my faculty at the meeting how we came up with the allocation of faculties into groups of discussion topics. And it's really interesting for a bunch of different reasons. First of all, you'll see that we iterated. ChatGPT and I had a conversation, much like I'm sure you have had conversations with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT didn't always get it right at first, but we worked together, and through a combination of prompt engineering and a few other little tricks, we got a nice result. But let me show you the process, because I think it's very instructive. And the key thing to note here is two things. First of all, we didn't do any manual anything other than come up with a list of faculty and their interests. And number two, in this particular case, we also, we also didn't write any code. So we didn't have to do any manual work other than come up with a list of faculty, and we didn't have to write any code. Pointing out the key theme, which is using these tools for problem solving instead of programming. So what I did is I said, here's the input for all the 35 faculty members who submitted their topics they wanted discussed. And then I gave the 3 topic preferences ordered from highest to lowest. So this is a topic group like faculty development or student development or something about research or whatever. And so for each faculty member, I would have the faculty member's name and then what they cared about. These are the topics, group 3, group 5, group 1, in their order of interest. And something else that was very important, again, this is how to remedy the degenerative AI skeptics. I gave it an example. I said, this is the format I'm going to give you the input in. I'm going to have a person's name followed by preferences. So I told it something. I gave it some context. Great. So then what we did is, this is the list of all the faculty. You'll recognize some of these names if you've taken courses here. And the first thing that ChatGPT did was it used what's known as a greedy algorithm. And I'll show you what a greedy algorithm is. You may know what a greedy algorithm is if you're a computer science student who's taken our algorithms class. But basically, it said, I'm going to allocate faculty members to topics based on their preferences using a greedy approach with the following steps. And it told me what it was going to do. And more interestingly, because I'm using the advanced data analytics tool, it actually wrote me some Python code. So here's the Python code with all the faculty put into a data structure. And then you can see that it goes ahead and writes a little algorithm. And it goes through. And basically what it's doing is for each of the faculty in order, it's saying, Gautam Biswas wants group 3. So I'll put Gautam in group 3. It's a greedy algorithm, so first come, first serve. Andy Gokley wants group 3. I'll put him in group 3. Dan Lin wants group 3. Everybody wanted group 3 for some reason. And so, but what happened here was, because it always took the person's first choice until it ran out of things, it would fill everybody up in that group. And I also wanted all the groups to be the same size, like no more than 6 or 7 people per group. So it quickly got into a situation where it couldn't allocate everybody to a group that they had expressed interest in. And so when you see the results that come out here, you can see that poor Jonathan Sprinkle, if you've ever had him, he was the last person to give us his topic preferences. And because of that, he had ended up in topic area 5. But if you take a look, Jonathan Sprinkle didn't want to be in topic area 5. He wanted to be in topic areas 2, 3, 4. So taking a look at that, I'm like, oh, well, that's not good. We put people in topic areas they didn't want to be in. That's not really the best thing to do. So here's where I engage in a little bit more interaction with ChatGPT. I said, your greedy approach ended up allocating Jonathan Sprinkle to a topic he didn't express interest in. Can you use a different algorithm that respects everybody's preferences and doesn't allocate faculty to topics they did not express interest in? So again, I'm not writing a lick of code. I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT. And because ChatGPT is obsequious and wants to please, right, it's fawning, it says, sure, I understand your concern. And it then said, I will use a different algorithm, a bipartite graph matching algorithm. And then it explained how it was going to do that implementation. And then it actually goes a little further and it says, I'm going to use something called the Hungarian algorithm, which is a polynomial time algorithm. That means it doesn't take forever to run. It finds an optimal assignment for such problems. And so it then gives a few caveats here. So it's going to simplify that. And then what it does is it, once again, generates some data structures, generates an algorithm, takes in the faculty members' names, and so on. But something really interesting happened here. So it allocated most people properly. But once again, poor Professor Jonathan Sprinkle was unallocated. It couldn't figure out how to put him into any group. Before it put him in a group he didn't want, now it didn't put him in any group at all. So that's kind of a problem, right? So I then said, all right, being patient, trying to get my ChatGPT buddy to do good for me. I said, is it possible to generate a solution that assigns all faculty and guarantees that each faculty member is assigned to one of their top 3 choices? And now it's getting a better sense of what I'm asking. And so it says, sure, I can do that. And so what it does is it comes up with something called the assignment problem, which is another classic scheduling algorithm, scheduling approach. And basically what it'll do is it'll look through the code, it'll look through the list of topics, it'll assign everybody, and then if you end up with people who are not assigned to the topic that they care about, it'll go find somebody else who was assigned to that topic. But if they had like a second choice, it'll move them to their second choice or their third choice, and then give everybody a topic that they like. So even if they don't get their first choice, they at least get a topic that they care about, they expressed interest in. And so they say this strategy ensures everyone gets one of their top 3 choices, but it can be quite involved. And so once again, ChatGPT generates this code. You can see it's a lot more code this time. And what was interesting here was it attempted to do this, but they ended up with an uneven distribution. So topics 1 and 4 had 8 members, and topic 5 had only 5 members. So we wanted it more balanced. We wanted to have people allocated more evenly. So it said, all right, I'm going to try to automagically make some adjustments. Again, notice I'm not writing any code. I'm just interacting with ChatGPT. And then it tries another approach, and you can take a look at the code. I won't walk through it with you, but here's another implementation that tries to balance things out. But it turns out when it did that, it said, it seems the process got stuck in an infinite loop while trying to balance the assignments. So this is pretty cool. ChatGPT tried another algorithm, and it went into an infinite loop, and it detected it went into an infinite loop. That's pretty darn cool. It didn't just run forever and do nothing. It realized it was going awry. So finally it says, let's take yet another approach. This is like approach 4 or 5 it's done, all of which were basically it coming up with algorithms based on my natural language prompts. And so it explains how it's going to do this. And what it's going to do this time is it's going to shuffle the faculty using randomness. So it's going to go ahead and give everybody what they want, but it's going to randomly move people around as a way to try to avoid the infinite loop problem. And it says, this method is a bit of a heuristic, but it might help us find a suitable assignment. Let's give it a try. Great. So if you take a look here, you can see that, once again, it uses this randomization approach, and it comes up with an algorithm that shuffles the faculty in a random way. And what was great about this was, lo and behold, after the 5th turn of the crank here, it successfully assigned each faculty member to one of their top 3 choices. And it shows you what the assignments were. And I think, as it turns out here, let's see where we put, Jonathan Sprinkle ended up in topic area 2. He wanted to be in topic area 2, so he finally got put in the right place. And it says that this allocation ensures that the topic has exactly 7, that each topic has exactly 7 faculty members, and every faculty is assigned to one of their top 3 choices. So pretty cool. So I showed this to the faculty at the retreat, because we allocated everybody and had them go off to their groups. And then I said, take a look, this is how it worked. And it was very cool, and they were amazed that I could just have this interaction with ChatGPT, and it didn't have to, I didn't have to write any code. It didn't come up with the perfect solution the first time, but together we prompt engineered ourselves into a nice solution. And it took me much less time than it would have taken to do this by hand or to write some code to do it in a programmed way. So this goes back to what I was saying before. You can use ChatGPT as a problem-solving approach where it writes code. You don't have to write the code. You just interact with it with natural language. And I think that's very consistent with the things that you've been doing here in class. So that was a fun example, at least to me, of how we could use these tools interactively to solve real problems without writing any code, but we could iterate together and have humans working together with AI to solve real problems.